start with robotic vision systems now. So why is vision important for any of us? So this slide gives you the statistics of how much vision is important when compared to all the other five senses called sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. Even though each of the senses is important, vision plays a major role because about 60% of our brain is involved in vision in some way or the other. So, but when we normally say, if we talk as teacher, we all know, faculty, we all know, even if we talk for hours together, it is equivalent to showing one picture to the student so that he or she will understand it in a better manner. So that is the importance of vision. So the percentage of neurons of brain which is involved or diverted to each sense, it is for the sight, it is the maximum 30%, and for touch it is 8%, hearing it is 2%, and smell it is 1%. So as far as the robots are concerned, we are concentrating more and more on vision to improve the robotic vision so that it matches with the vision of human beings. But still, till now, the human vision, it remains a mystery. We see something, we perceive something, we understand, and we do something. So all these things happen involuntarily. But as a machine, as a robo, it is concerned, we need to train the robo. So how to go for that? That is the importance of robotic vision. So how is it possible? Only with the help of the images which are obtained through our eye, and it is processed through the brain, and the brain will order the other organs to perform some action based on it. So how is the image is formed in the eye? This slide is basically the biology slide we could have seen from 8th standard or so. So these are the important main parts of your eye, and we all know we focus the image in the lens which is present inside the eye. So when the image is focused on the eye, and it will, in the inverted image will be formed over here, and it will be sent to the brain through optic nerve. So it will be converted into electrical signals, and it will be sent to the brain. So the same thing happens with the human vision. Whatever happens with the human vision, we are trying to achieve with the computer vision. So this slide is this is the analogy between the human vision and the computer vision system. We can see we have the eye here and the brain here, and we see something and we make decisions here. The same way it is done with the computer vision system. So whatever we see here through the camera or any other sensing device, not only camera, the sensing device will give the input to the interpreting device, and the interpreting device will give the proper output. So this is where all our work remains. So the capturing part is the main, and the interpreting part is the second most important part. Okay, so this is where we always talk about AI, ML, DL, and so on. So this is where our future lies. So the robotic vision is concerned with only these two factors: the sensing device and the interpreting device. And we are already into the process of inventing more and more sensing devices, or improving more and more sensing devices. And at the same way, we write algorithms, or we get more data sets, we process the data, so something happens. So what happens in the human vision system, we have a neocortex which is the 6 layers. The human brain has the most what to say, the highest amount of neocortex layers. So it processes the whatever is input it is getting. Say from the childhood, we learn, we start with A, B, C, D. So they teach us the alphabets. Whenever I see A, I come to I remember it as A, because it has been taught to me so many times. So same way we see each and everything, and we perceive that thing. When you look into something new, for example, you haven't seen so far some new object you haven't seen so far in your life, you are trying to visualize it, means what will you do? Your brain will just code it with whatever you have seen already. So that is what is happening in this interpreting device. So we are trying to teach the machine, these are the things. So this is a laptop, this is a keyboard, this is the mouse. We are teaching the interpreting device, this is what it is. And whenever it sees a new thing, it is again trying to match it, or match the features, or it, once again, sorry. So that interpreting device is trying to match the features, and it is trying to perceive what the new thing it has seen so far. So the same thing, whatever our human brain does, it is brought into the interpreting device by using these three techniques. So this is about human vision versus computer vision. So what is the basic of computer vision is nothing but the images. And we all know image is a two-dimensional representation of the visible light spectrum. And we have the 7 colors which are all those basics we all know. And we are trying to get the image in the 2D platform, means you have the x and y coordinates, and we call each coordinate as a pixel, and it is composed of RGB colors. So that is what is shown in the image here again. So whenever you have a grayscale image or a monochrome image, it is just black and white, we call black and white images. Then there are only 2 bits which are required to represent that 1 pixel of the image. If you increase the number of bits representing each gray level, then you will have a grayscale. So if you have 8 bits, you are able to get 256 gray levels, 0 to 255. So wherever the pixel value is 0, it means complete black, and wherever the pixel value is 255, it is complete white. So the intermediate values, say 120, 125, it will be some gray shade. So that is what is the grayscale image. When it comes to the color images, you have 3 values, 0 to 255 for R, N, G, and B. So these 3 are the main basic colors, which when combined together forms various other colors which are possible in the world. So these RGB color spaces, there is one concept called color spaces that is again important as far as vision is concerned. Say if you are using an LCD projector or LED projector or a monitor or a television screen or your laptop, or you are printing it using your printer or a photo paper, so everything it will have its own color space. For each application we have a different color space, so that color space also plays a major role. But still, you have one the main 3 components are the red, green, and blue that we all know from the basics. So what we do in computer vision is, again, we convert these color spaces as per our requirement or as per our application is concerned. So basically, what I am telling now is a digital image is the representation of a 2-dimensional image is a finite set of digital values, and it will have number of pixels. Each pixel value is nothing but it's gray level or the color or the opacity or the intensity, whatever you name it. So each pixel plays an important role. So when the picture or the image has more number of pixels, you say it is a high resolution image, then the clarity will be much better, meaning you will be able to observe the minute details out of it. When you decrease the number of pixels in your image, the clarity or the resolution decreases. So that is the concept about the digital image. So this is again the example of those uh, uh, pixel values. So if you have 2 bits, 2 levels, 0 and 1, that is a monochrome image. This is the example. And if you have 6 levels, you get little more detail about it. When you have 16 levels, you get a better picture. When it comes to a color picture, you can predominantly divide it into RGB and gray color spaces. So when you combine all these 3, you will be getting the total picture. So how to represent this RGB image in terms of a 2-dimensional array? Like normally you have a array of values or a matrix of values like this. So for each pixel you have a value here. So this is nothing but your intensity. That is what I was telling. So when you have 3 arrays like this, you have 3 arrays like this, 1 array for R, 1 for G, and 1 for B. That is nothing but a color image. So this is the basic concept about the images, digital images. So this forms the basics of the digital image forms the basic of the most predominant character of the computer vision or robotic vision. And when it comes to video, it is nothing but a stream of images. So the same concept which applies to the image, it is applied to the video processing also. So how does the robotic vision evolved? What is the evolution of the robotic vision? If you see, it started from this digital image processing. So we created a digital image so far. So we started processing it, and then it was computer vision. Then the concept of computer vision was applied to machine vision. And then these concepts were taken to robotic vision with the help of AI, ML, and DL concepts. And now in trend is the embedded vision system. So this is the evolution of the robotic vision. So what is the basic difference between all these things? It is image processing. You give input as image and you get the output as image again. In computer vision, you have images as input, but you get information or features about the particular image. So the output will be, you will be detecting the features from the image. So the output will be features. Machine vision, you have the image and you get some information out of the images you have given as input, and based on this information you will be performing some action by using some other system. And in robot vision everything is included together. So the image is given as input, or you deploy a camera on your robot. Whatever the robot is able to see through the camera, it performs some physical action based on the image it has seen. So that is robot vision. So what are the basic technologies or domains behind this image processing or robotic vision? Is digital image processing, computer vision, computer graphics, and artificial intelligence. And when it comes to robot vision, which is the recent thing, you involve machine learning concept, and you take the concepts from computer vision and machine vision. So the basic of all these things is nothing but your basic physics, optics, and signal processing. So signal processing paved the way for image processing. Whatever concepts we have in signal processing is applied to image processing again. So this is about the evolution of robotic vision. Any questions? Am I going fast? Is the pace okay? Am I going fast?
Ma'am, okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. It is fine, ma'am.
Okay. So the next topic, what is you have the digital image. I was telling about the array of images. So this is the two-dimensional representation of the image. So the first pixel you can represent by 0, 0, and the last pixel by 640 by 480. So this image is a 640 by 480 image. Okay. So this is how we represent the image. So how to get this image processed? That is done by these three steps. By importing the image via image acquisition tools, nothing but a camera, and analyze and manipulate the image, and the output will be the altered image or improved image based on our requirement. So based on the image analysis, we try to get the report out of it. So what are the main application areas, or what are the what to say steps which are done in the image processing? Nothing but acquisition, enhancement, restoration, and compression. So these techniques, I assume that you all know. I don't want to bore you with these things. Acquisition is basically how to acquire the data, and enhancement is performing denoising, filtering, smoothing, sharpening, those kind of things. Restoration is extracting some feature out of it, or make the image more clear. And compression is used to compress the image and transmit it over long distances. So these examples given over here are some of the mostly widely used pictures, where you are able to count the coffee beans, you do some morphing, you are able to detect some presence of an object, and you do photo stitching. So all these things are possible with the help of digital image processing. So how computer vision evolved from digital image processing? Basically, we call digital image processing as a low-level process. So when it goes to middle-level process, it is nothing but computer vision. So low-level processing, you have noise removal, image sharpening, what I was explaining in the last slide. And when it comes to middle-level process, you go for a higher application like object recognition, object segmentation, detection, feature extraction, etc., feature matching, etc. So how to perform these things is nothing but our computer vision. It tries to imitate the human cognition. So I was talking about the neocortex. So by computer vision, we are trying to imitate human cognition level, and we make decisions based upon the image given as input. That is what is computer vision is. So it is a field of artificial intelligence that trains computers to interpret and understand the visual world using digital images from cameras and videos and deep learning models, machines can accurately identify and classify objects. So classifying object is one of the main applications of your computer vision. So based on whatever the computer sees or the robot sees, it is able to come to a conclusion by analyzing the concept, image and applying the insights. So what are the techniques, basic techniques followed in computer vision? You capture the image through an acquisition device called a so-called camera. Camera, again, you have different types of camera. We'll come to it later. And then you do sampling as we do in signal processing. I assume that you all know what is sampling. Nothing but you have a uh, what to say, you have enormous amount of data out of which we pick the desired levels of data alone. That is in image processing. When it comes to signal processing, you have a continuous signal, you make a discrete signal out of it, that is sampling, and then you convert the discrete signal into digital signal, that is analog to digital conversion. So same way here, you acquire the data in terms of it can be a CMOS camera or a CCD camera. So based on that input, you do sampling and then you convert into digital, and what you get out as output will be this one. So you have a frame grab light intensity value. Frame grabber is nothing but a memory which will store all the data. And nowadays we get cameras with frame grabbers in it. They are able to perform some calculations also. So normally in our olden days we had some camera where we take a picture, we had a negative, we go to the shop and develop the negative, those kind of. Then it came the digital camera. In digital camera, you are able to see the picture then and there because it had a display inbuilt in it. And now you have a camera with a frame grabber where you are able to perform some calculation and you do some what is it, the modification, the process, digital image processing is done within the camera itself. That is why we are able to get clear pictures as per our requirement, and we are able to take pictures in dark mode, or you take a panoramic picture. So that panoramic picture is nothing but photo stitching, and you can apply in your mobile itself, you can apply some animations on your picture. So all these things are possible because it is deployed with frame grabbers. So that is about the initial part of it. After this, you can apply some techniques to better the image, to make it more and more better by applying the pre-processing concepts like masking, averaging, filtering, etc. So what is basically masking is shown over here. So you have a mask, the red color one is a mask. It is nothing but again a smaller array of values. So whatever value you fix, there are different types of mask available. You can call it as a kernel or a filter also. So you just apply the mask over the all the pixels, and you do some convolution, and you get a output intensity value. So that will give you a better picture, or the image will be converted according to your requirement. So that is what is done in the pre-processing. This is an essential step because based on pre-processing, we extract some features out of the input image, and when those pictures are processed through the convolution neural networks or the deep neural networks, we are able to build a model out of it. So everywhere, wherever, whatever may be the technique, even let it be a robotic vision or a computer vision, basic computer vision or a machine vision, these pre-processing steps are necessary. Okay, so averaging is nothing but you have 9 pixels here. So all the pixel values, the intensity values will be averaged, and it will be replaced by the same value. Say, for example, if you take these 3 by 3 matrix, you have 6 zeros and 3 90s. So when you average it, it will be 270 by 9. So 30. So all your values here will be replaced by 30. So that will be averaging. That's all. So filtering means you apply some filter as a mask, and you apply the values. You have different types of filters. That itself is a different concept. As in signal processing, here also you have high frequency, low frequency filters for sharpening and smoothing operations. So that blurring operation we call. So those operations we can see in reality using simulation in the next class. And thresholding is another important concept where you look into each and every value, and you set a threshold value. Out of all pixel values, you try to set a threshold value. Sorry. So out of the threshold, you take each and every value and you compare it with the preset threshold value, and you come to a conclusion. And this what I have shown here is nothing but a binary threshold. Like you have only the values called ones and zeros. There are so many types of thresholding against, say also thresholding, adaptive, uh, optimum thresholding. So there are so many types of thresholding. Again, thresholding is important concept for computer vision. Even simple thresholding solves n number of problems in machine vision techniques. So what you get using this equation shown here is you will get an array of ones and zeros. So you will be able to see a particular region of the picture. Say this is this is used in cancer detection, image processing. So this is one important technique. Again, it has a lot of applications. And edge detection is another important technique where you want to take the edges out of it. You can see the example picture shown here, the photo. You can see a clown, and the features of it is like a pencil sketch. Again, this I will show you in simulation. So you will be able to get the pencil sketch like output. And again, this is important for machine vision, where you are able to uh, perform measurements of components, or you want to count some components in that, or you want to segment some object out of the picture. Say you want to segment this part alone, then you have to do edge detection as a pre-processing technique for that, and then you go for segmentation. So this edge detection, again, it has a variety of techniques. Scan edge detection, have transform, so many techniques are there. And there's some noise. Okay. So so again, here I have shown you the masks for performing this edge detections. So you gradient edge detection, you can take the first derivative or the second derivative. So basically, it will look for the light intensity distribution. When there is no change in the distribution, it will give you some output. And there is a change in the distribution, the first derivative will be like this. It will look for the constant. There is a constant variation in the intensity. So the first derivative gradient will give you this output. Second derivatives will give you this sharp spike like things, where it will show you where the exact uh, contrast variation occurs, or the intensity variation occurs. So you are able to detect the edges are nothing but the differences in the contrast values. So that is detected by using the filters shown here. And another important thing is, when you add up all these values, it will give you 0. So that is one important concept of these masks or filters we use. And object identification is basically performed by using this signature or chain codes. You can use this four or eight code signature, where say there is an object like this. You have a object in this shape. You are looking for what are the variations. So this is like this. So it is like, it is taken as 7, and this particular part is like this. So it is taken as 0. So 7, 0, 6, then 4. So like this, one chain code is generated, and you are able to perform some calculations on it to detect an object of a particular code. So you will be knowing the code for, say for example, you are trying to find out the number of squares in a given picture. Then you will have the code for the square, and you will look for that code after applying your algorithm. So that is one important point. And again, to identify the multiple objects, we calculate a factor called compactness. It is given by perimeter square by area. Again, that is applied in this application of identifying objects of like a square, rectangle, circle, etc. And this signature is nothing but for a circle, all these points are lying from center and from the same distance. So the signature of the circle will be like this. If it is a square, it will be like this. So you will have some signature like this. Only at only at the diagonals you will have a maximum value, and other places you have less value. So the signature again plays a major role in object identification. These are three methods used for identifying the objects: chain code, signature, and compactness. So these are the methods to identify objects. So these are the techniques I was talking about: pre-processing, thresholding, edge detection, and object identification. These are the some of the techniques used in computer vision, basic techniques, without which we cannot perform any of the computer vision applications today. Okay. So these are the main applications or practical applications where we use computer vision. It's self-explanatory, but still I want to spend a little time on this because this is an application area. You may think of some application like this, and you can develop your own algorithm based on what we learn in the next session. The example codes you can try out for your application. Take a problem like this and you try to solve the problem. That becomes a application. So one of the example is to detect the defects in the parts, manufactured parts in industries. Say example, brake drums, aluminum brake drums. In mechanical, students might be knowing aluminum brake drums will be like this in shape, but the surface will be little bit flashy, or it will not be matte finish. So when you take normal pictures and you see, or when you, for a normal eye, you'll not be able to detect the minute or hairline cracks in the manufactured parts. But when you apply the computer vision techniques, what we have learned earlier, say thresholding, edge detection, etc., you will be able to find out the defects in the parts. And when we say the application of defect detection, it can not only be the cracks, it can be in measurements also. If there is a mismatch in measurement, you'll be able to identify using this computer vision technique. Again, in airport security checks, you can use vision techniques to find out the unauthorized items which are carried in the baggages. And animal counting is another example, or you can monitor the animals in wildlife animals by non-invasive techniques, or you can take pictures using drones, and you are able to identify the rare species, endangered species. And the crop disease detection is again another part where you are able to find out what is the disease which is affecting the plant. It is shown here. So crop disease is another part. Fake defect the fake goods or products in the market. For normal eye, the exact logo will be replicated, but using computer vision technique, you will be able to find out which logo is fake and which is the original genuine one. And for players, for training the players, say tennis or football, the players can be analyzed with their posture. Post estimation, I will show you one example in the simulation class. They'll be able to estimate the posture of the say in tennis, some player is serving. When he is serving the ball, is his posture correct or not? That is one example, one way of analyzing the player's performance. So that can be done by taking pictures of his serve, and then analyze it using computers to correct the posture. And fake currency detection is one of the companies I visited in Bangalore. They do it for Indian government. So it is they import the machine. Basically, Indian government imports the machines for printing the currency. But after printing the currency, they do a lot of checks, and we do not know. Until I went there, I didn't know that our currency has so many security features inbuilt. So all the security features are first checked by them while printing. So before that note comes out of the printing factory, a thorough check is done using the computer vision techniques. And again, the printed currencies are sorted by using again computer vision techniques. And I was talking about cancer detection. So medical applications are enormous for computer vision applications. And for large factories, it is not possible to detect the leaks or spills in pipelines. So that is again done by using photos or machines, drones, are small robots which move through the pipelines, and they capture pictures, and they tell you what is the actual where is the actual leakage in the pipeline, kind of things. And again, fraud detection in insurance, and facial recognition for security checks are again important applications of computer visions. So I think after looking into this slide, we are able to understand how computer vision plays a major role in industries today. So the applications are enormous. I have listed only a few. And going from computer vision to machine vision, what is the difference between the major difference between the two? In computer vision, it is referring to the broad terms to the capture of automation of image analysis with an emphasis on image analysis function across a wide range of theoretical and practical application. But machine vision traditionally refers to the use of computer vision in an industrial or practical application. So when I was talking about the applications, I was mentioning this industry and this industry. So when you're applying that concept in the industry, that becomes the machine vision. So based on the computer vision output, we are able to perform something in the machine using the machine. Say in currency detection, we are able to find out the printing was not proper in a particular currency in a particular node. Then you have to discard the currency. It should not go out of the printing factory. So that discarding will happen using the machine vision technique. So that is how computer vision is linked to machine vision, or computer vision is applied to machine vision. So this is an example of machine vision system where you have a factory setup, where the bottling factory, you fill some liquid in the bottle and you cap the bottle, you put the label and you send it out. So everywhere robots are employed. So the robots will be doing the capping, putting the cap and putting the label, and the bottle will be traveling through the elevator. Even filling the liquid to the correct level, it is automated. So everything it happens when the bottle enters at one area. When it leaves to another area, it is ready to be put into the carton box. At the same elevator, you will have some checks performed at some regions using your camera, where you will be examining the label, you will be examining the cap, you will be examining the whole structure of the bottle. Everything is done automatically. So whenever there is some defect in the label printed, or some defect in the cap, if the cap is not proper, it is loose, or there is a deshaping of bottle at some area, at those points you need to eject the bottle out of the elevator. So that will happen with the help of the machine vision system. So what are the important parts which is involved in this setup? Nothing but cameras, lighting, lens, frame grabbers, and a computer with a software installed on it, and the output components like a robotic arm. So these are the important things. So cameras, I'll talk later about it when we look into the sensors part. Lighting is again important. It is illumination is another area where we go on research. There are a lot of illumination techniques. Why is illumination or lighting important is about 50% of the problems will be easily solved when you have a properly lit image as input. If the image is not properly lit, illuminated image, then you will have to apply more and more algorithms, more and more concepts, which may even fail consequently. So it is always better to capture the image from a perfect position with a perfect lighting. So where you position the camera is again an important factor. So in this example shown, you can see there is a ring light here, and you are able to capture the photo from here. There is a camera set up at the top of this. So it is basically taking the picture of this lid, and also if this camera is an omnidirectional camera, it will be able to capture the label, the complete label also. So if there is some problem, the ring light is important to capture this image perfectly, and if there is some problem with this, it gets ejected. So that is what is this machine vision system does. And so we need some PLC and software vision PC and enabled PC. So where the vision computer and the software is nothing but our OpenCV. We can say our OpenCV. There are a lot of applications like this. So what is the basic operation? Again, I have already explained. You acquire the digital image, you pre-process the image as per our requirement, analyze the image to locate the specific features, and then collect the measurements, and whatever is the dimensional criteria, if it is not satisfied, you just establish the result. Whether it is a pass or fail or go or non-go situation, you will decide based on the fourth step, that is based on the measurements you have collected or the dimensional features you have referred to. So this is about the machine vision system as a at a factory setup, and this is about the other applications in other factories where you can do positioning of PCB components, use automated positioning of PCB components with the precise positioning can be possible, even though if it is not possible by human hands. This is done by automation. And verification, you say you are manufacturing gear wheels, if there is any problem with the tooths, that part can be discarded at that position where you manufacture the thing. So the verification of manufactured components can be done. Measurement of components, say you have some drill hole, you drill some holes, you measure the diameter of the hole, you measure the distance between two holes. That is also possible with the help of taking the image at the particular point and then analyzing it. And you can read the barcodes and also your QR codes. That is also possible. The optical printing characters or on any surface, identifying the characters written on any surface, it is possible through computer vision techniques. And inspection, like in printing press or packing industries, you can inspect on the go. The roller is rotating at a particular speed. Even in your currency printing, the printing happens at a particular speed. Say it will be like a notebook paper, A4 size or A3 size of paper, in which will have lot of currencies on it, like 10 to 12 currencies will be in one paper, one sheet of paper. And when that particular sheet is print, and when it reaches the next point within 20 milliseconds, the particular check will be happening through by capturing images and analyzing. And if the printing is not proper at a particular point, at that point the paper will be rejected. It will not reach the next point. So that is the speed of computer vision and machine vision. The example I have shown here is what I was talking about, the omnidirectional camera. Like you capture the photo from the top end and you are able to see the total labels. Even though it is like the image captured is like this, by applying computer vision techniques, you are able to get this particular label and you analyze the printing is proper or not. So this is one of the applications of computer vision or machine vision. And when it comes to robot vision, our HOD sir was talking about the industrial robots, various types of robots, and what a robo means, and where the word robota has come from, and what are the environments in which we use the robots. So robot vision is important because now in today's world we are going for 5Ds area, that is dirty environments, dull environments, dangerous environment, even domestic and dexterous environment where we use robots. So dexterous is nothing but even though a human hand or human eye is not able to perform something with that perfection, a robot can be trained to achieve that dexterity. So that is a dexterous environment. And dirty, dull, dangerous, and domestic has already been explained by sir. So these 5Ds make this robot vision more and more important. And what are the types of robo already dealt? So these robots, if we enabled with vision, they perform better and better. So it is no doubt that we need more vision applications in robotics, and we need more algorithms, we need more deep neural networks to make the vision better. And robot motion planning is the next area, where you have a robot which is moving from one place to another place while in motion. It can be of two types of study. One is free space motion and the another is complaint motion. And free space motion is say you have a room, the robot is moving from here to this destination, and there are some obstacles in the middle, so you try to avoid the obstacle and the robot has to take a path. If it goes like this, this is free space motion. When it is moving, what are the adjustments it makes to itself, that comes in the complaint motion. and most of the time we concentrate on this free space motion, and that again can be what to say, classified into manipulation and navigation. So navigation is nothing but the planning the path and go achieving the destination or target, and manipulation is how what to do while going. Say robo is trying to grab something, pick and place robo kind of things, that comes in manipulation. So robot motion planning again requires vision. What are the other needs for vision? We can say sensing and perception. So sense the environment and perceive the environment is possible only with the vision. Map and self localize. So prepare a map of a room, and now we have a robo vacuum cleaner, say automatic vacuum cleaner. You set the map for that particular room. Say here is the sofa, here is the TV cabinet, here is the bed. So you set the map once. The robot will be first trained to move randomly into the room, and it creates a map of itself, and it self localizes. Once it sets the map, you say hall, you save it in hall mode, then it will be having it in its memory what are the obstacles in that room. So it is able to move without hitting those obstacles from after being trained. So that is self localization and path planning. And grabbing a pick and place robots, grab the objects and place the objects on at some particular position or place. And interpretation of scene, surrounding, and surveying. Surveying is interpretation of scene and surrounding. Again, it is a part of mapping and localization, but surveying is while moving, the robot is able to perform some action, that is visual surveying. It is able to see something and it is able to do something. Say for if in fantasy, in Endiran movie, the robot will be able to catch all the weapons thrown at it, right? It will be able to throw it back, catch it and throw it back. So how is it possible while moving? It is able to survey. It does visual surveying. So what are the techniques which are involved in these applications? Image classification, object detection, object recognition, semantic segmentation, visual navigation, and action recognition. These are the techniques which are involved in the vision, which is robotic vision. So what are the important sensors? So robotic vision, when we say, it is not only it is not just the camera. The robot is able to move and achieve the target only with the help of all these sensors present in it. So these sensor has to work hand in hand, and it should give a proper input to the CPU for the robot to perform a particular action. So what are the important sensors? Tactile sensors, wheel encoders, GPS, accelerometer, heading sensors, etc. So tactile sensors are nothing but proximity sensors in general, but today tactile sensors have gone to the range of bionic arms, which was I think which was told by Vishwapriya ma'am yesterday. So the sense of touch is again getting importance in robots. Along with sense of vision, this tactile sensors are gaining more and more importance. Even telepresence is felt by using this tactile sensors in today's world. There are important applications or researches going on using these tactile sensors. And wheel encoders, we already know, it estimates the motion of the robot. GPS gives you the exact location of the robot in your outdoor navigation. Accelerometer will measure the external forces acting on the robot. And heading sensors, it helps the robot to move in a particular direction and maintain its pose and estimate are given through the heading sensors. And IMU, it is a combination of mostly it is a combination of this gyro and accelerometer and magnetometer sometimes. So it estimates the relative position, velocity, and acceleration of the robot. And this plays a major role even in drones. So IMU is one of the important sensors we need to know about. And next comes the ranging finder sensors. This is widely used in self-driving cars, not exactly any automated guided vehicles. We use a ranging finder sensor, also called as LiDARs. They are used to avoid the obstacles, scene interpretation, and mapping. I will give you more detail in the next slide. And again, digital cameras, what we use today for domestic use is simple. what is being used in computer vision industry is more and more complex, more and more equipped. So what are those cameras? We'll see now. So out of all these sensors, robotic sensors, we concentrate on vision sensors because that is our topic today. So what are the vision sensors? Basically, normal digital cameras can be used, and the digital cameras can be of high speed with a lot of memory and frame grabber together, and it will have a simple connectivity too. So that is about digital camera. Dioptric camera, it's nothing but the camera with a 180-degree field of view. So it will be able to see, like this given in the picture, it will be able to see whatever is in front of it. And when it is a polydioptric camera, you otherwise call as fisheye camera, you will have a view like this. You should have seen this in security cameras. So you will have a 360-degree view of your surrounding. When this 360-degree view is extended like this, you will get a panoramic picture, or an omnidirectional camera. Polydioptric camera is nothing but a omnidirectional camera. So you will be able to get a picture of the 360-degree surrounding. That is importance of the cameras. And thermal cameras are widely used in surveillance, fire control, and medical applications, where you are able to understand the surrounding based on the IR radiation from the objects. So even today in COVID situation, we use IR for detecting the body temperature. Same way, that is one of the applications. So FLIR cameras are widely used in wildlife monitoring, where during night times the other cameras may fail, but FLIR cameras are able to detect the presence of an animal with the help of the body temperature. That is one application. And range finders, stereo vision cameras. Stereo vision is nothing but our normal eye is our stereo vision. This is the example of a stereo vision camera, where you have two or more cameras built in the same line at the same distance. They will have separate lenses, and they will be capturing three different pictures. If it is a binocular kind of 2D or a 3D stereo vision, you'll be able to get the picture like what is present in our eye. So we have left eye and right eye. Our left eye is able to see something, our right eye is able to see something. If you try closing one eye and visualize what is in front of you, you will be able to see a different part. If you try with the right eye, again you close the left eye, you try only the right eye, you will be able to see a picture. When you open both the eyes, you are able to see a different picture. So that is stereo vision. So the same thing what a human eye does is imitated with the help of stereo vision. So they capture left view, right view, and they are able to match these two or merge these two and form a complete vision is one thing. And they can find the disparity between the two images to come to some conclusion. That is second application of stereo vision. So this is about the range finding stereo vision. And a structured light is one of the techniques where it is used in Xbox, Kinect Xbox, where you are using IR camera and you have a IR projector. So you project the IR rays, it touches the object and it comes back to the detector. So you are able to find out the presence of an object with the help of that IR radiation. So that normal IGB camera is also present and IR camera is also present. So with the help of these three things, you are able to find out the presence of an object in front of it. So this is basically used in Xbox. And time of flight is nothing but the 2D lidar technology, where you like in radar and sonar, you have again lidar here. What lidar does is it emits the laser radiation, and it will try to, I'll show you. Yeah, there is a picture here. So this is the 2D lidar. So there is a lidar here. It is able to scan the surrounding by emitting the laser radiation. So each red dot is nothing but one radiation of laser pulse. So the pulses will strike the the environment or the objects present in front of it or the walls of the room. So let us assume this is a room and you have a chair here and your lidar is here. The lidar rays will touch the walls of the room. So it is able to give you a map like this. And whenever there is a obstacle here, you can see there is red dots here. So this is on 2D map. The problem with this is what is at the back of this is not known. And again, after this, this is occluded. Occluded means it is hidden. After this obstacle, what is present here is not shown to the robo. Say this is the robo equipped with lidar. Okay, so when it just looks into it, it is able to see this obstacle. But after behind this obstacle, what is there? The robo is unable to see. So this is about the 2D lidar, but this is also widely used in normal local self-localization and low-cost robots to move from source to destination. And but in automated guided vehicles or self-driving cars, we have a 3D lidar like this, or nothing but you have a number of lidar pulses being emitted in each direction, and you are able to build a 3D map out of it. Okay, so this lidar technology is not used in Tesla, but Elon Musk says this lidar is waste. Those who are using lidar is a fool. Is what is the statement of Elon Musk? But I'm not sure about it. Still, it is a concept, very important concept, because these 3D maps perform better and better in automated guided vehicles. But Tesla is not going for it. They are using normal cameras. They are trying to equip the cars with more than 8 cameras or so. You will have a session from Mr. Ashok from Tesla on self-driving cars. So that time you will be able to understand more about it. But what I am talking here is about the 3D lidar. So you have a number of laser pulses emitted in each direction. You are able to build a map of your total surrounding. And with this, the distance, the time of flight, the laser pulse takes gives you the distance. So from the lidar to the obstacle. So this will maintain the self-driving cars from avoiding the obstacles. So this is about 3D lidar and 2D lidar. So this is range finding. So what we have in vision sensor is basically nothing but you have digital cameras, you have dioptric cameras with field of view 180 degree. You have polydioptric cameras with 360 degree view, thermal cameras, and range finders like stereo vision, structured light, Kinect sensors, and time of flight sensors like 2D lidars and 3D scanners. One of the important brands used is Velodyne 3D scanner. So this is the picture of Velodyne scanner. This is used in self-driving cars. So this is about the robotic vision sensors. So this application of these is again assembly lines, automated guided vehicles, collaborative robots. Collaborative robots are nothing but two robots working close to each other. So they should not collide with each other. They should avoid human interaction also. So cobots is one of the upcoming terms. So they have to have some vision technique to avoid the obstacles and also avoid other robots or human working along with the robo. And autonomous drones. Today morning during aerial robot session, Balamurugan sir was explaining about the vision used in autonomous drones. So they take autonomous drones are used to take lot of pictures for analyzing. So those pictures will be it can be used for finding out the disease, the wildlife, and the surveying part. As far as surveying is concerned, you can either use these lidars to get the map of a particular area, or you can also use photogrammetry technique. Photogrammetry technique uses normal digital cameras where you take the pictures from aerial view and you try to stitch the pictures and you try to find the depth of it. So you can differentiate what are the crops in that area, vegetation, valleys, and what is the height of the trees, etc., etc. So you are able to get more and more information with pictures, so images. So that is the application of robot vision in autonomous drones. Self-driving cars I have explained already. Humanoids, we all know a human kind like robo, if it can see, it can achieve more and more perfection when we are deploying the robotic vision. Next one is the embedded vision, or the last one is the embedded vision. This is the recent term where you have a embedded system inbuilt in the robot, which is perfectly used only for vision to avoid the computing time. So you have GPUs. We all know DNNs or deep neural networks or normal machine learning machines. They need more and more GPU power. All these image processing techniques and vision techniques are possible. Even though the concept was introduced in 1970s, the concept has come to this much of application only because of the existence of computing power with the help of GPUs. So if we employ a proper GPU only for the purpose of this vision, then the robot can act more. It can act faster than what it does previously. So for that, you deploy a embedded vision technique where the integration of computer vision is done with the algorithm. The images are processed. Whatever images were captured, they will be processed by the inbuilt algorithm in the firmware of the embedded system, and then the output or the what is the output of the system, it is given to the robot within microseconds. So that will reduce the this is like a coprocessor basically. So yeah, any embedded system which is meant for a vision technique, it's called as embedded vision. And there are sensors also. Sensors or intelligent sensors or smart sensors which are being used today in IoT world, or factory automation, or any other IoT sensor network areas. You have intelligent sensors today. One of the important intelligent sensors I came across was by Sony, where we all know that we take pictures, we send it through the cloud, and the cloud will give it to the edge computers, and they process, and they send you the data back. That is what happens in an IoT system normally. But when you use an intelligent sensor, what it does is it takes the pictures as input, it does some calculation, it applies all the algorithms which are necessary which is embedded in the intelligent sensor. Then it will send only the data through the cloud. So it will consume very less data when compared to sending a whole image as such. One thing. Second thing is it is able to consume less time because all the calculations have been performed. Most of the calculations have been performed by the sensor. What is sent to the IoT for the edge computing part is just the about 30% of it. So it will reduce the amount of computations involved at the edge computer side. So the results are obtained very fast. So that is an advantage of embedded vision in IoT again. So this is about the robots. So what comes to my mind later on, what we are going to achieve in future, what is required is basically we started from AI, then we went to ML and then DL. So what is AI basically? We are able to give some intelligence to the machine, artificial intelligence. So how that intelligence is given to the machine? Everything is possible only because of the data. So when it comes to deep learning, it is called big data. So what was given as data to the machine was taught. The teaching or learning process training process has happened, and the machine is able to predict something out of it. So what is basically done here is you train the images here. So you have a set of training images, you have a set of test image, and you train the images based on the features subtracted obtained from the image. So you feed the input images, the features of the image are obtained, you train the machine for a particular thing by you giving the training labels or important features, and then you are able to classify the output. This example is given as a face recognition technique, where you will be feeding all these Buffy, Joyce, Giles, Dawn, Willow, these pictures, the person's pictures will be fed here. Okay, so those pictures will be fed over as training images, and any one of these pictures can be given as a test image. So when this machine gets trained over and over again, saying this is Buffy, this is Joyce, this is Dawn, so every time it is able to extract some feature out of Buffy's face, out of Joyce's face. So there will be difference. There will be minute differences. So those things will be learned by the machine, and it is able to predict when you give a test image, it is able to predict the correct picture out of it. So that is what is happening in AI and ML and DL. What is the main difference between ML and DL is when you have ML, either supervised or unsupervised or reinforcement learning, whatever may be the technique used in ML, machine learning, even though you need data, the amount of data which is required for ML is very less when compared to DL. When you have minimum amount of data, the ML is able to perform better. Even though after that, even though you give more and more data, ML can only perform to a certain extent. But deep learning models can perform better and better when you give more and more data. So what is important as far as robotic vision is concerned is nothing but you need more and more data. You want to train the particular robo for identifying a particular object. You have to feed the robo with thousands or lakhs of images to achieve that perfection. So that is the challenge, one of the challenges we face today. And the algorithm or the deep learning models we build with the help of the neural networks again plays a major role. Like I said, neocortex, we have 6 layers. We all don't know what is inside the neocortex. How is it able to identify the differences between 2 persons? So same way, the machine has also hidden layers. We don't know what happens, but what is done in computers is basically mathematics, because we know the computers are good at maths. And since the computations are very high, we go for more and more high processing speeds or GPUs. So that is about the training or machine learning or deep learning part of the vision. And what are the tools used for this as far as the software side is concerned? OpenCV, TensorFlow, MATLAB, CUDA, Theano, SimpleCV, Keras. Lot of tools are there. To start with, I am using OpenCV and little bit of TensorFlow, and NVIDIA, they use CUDA, and the Keras is again a good option because it is built on your TensorFlow. So these 3 options are the best, which work for better what to say for our teaching community. These 3 will suffice is what I know. So if you want to go for natural language processing like Alexa or a chatbot kind of thing, a little bit of PyTorch will help you. Otherwise, Keras and TensorFlow is sufficient. And what are the challenges in robotic vision? Like I said, lighting is a problem. You need a better lighting, and the deformation or articulation of objects when taking a picture, say a picture of a moving object, it may give you a deformed shape that may confuse the algorithm or the machine. And the position and orientation, this is very important in case of pick and place robots. Now the market is going towards a 3D positioning, so 3D view of the particular object, so that the robo is able to pick the object with a particular orientation, whatever may be the position and orientation of the object is. Say when you are putting the objects, pick the objects from one bin and place it in another bin. It is done in a particular manner by using 3D pick and place. And background may merge with your object. It may confuse the algorithms we write. So we have to be more clear when you are feeding the data set. I was talking about in this type of data set, you have to keep all these things in mind, so that the algorithm or the model you build out of it will work even with a even with a deformation, or even with a bad lighting, or even with occlusion. Occlusion is nothing but the hidden things. When we are taking the picture from one particular angle, it may occlude the vision of the camera. And the scaling means in one picture, the object may be very near and it may look a little different. When you take the picture from a other distance, it may look like very small one, and it may look like entirely a different object. So that confusion may also arise. And camera placement, I've already told you. Moving objects, we have already discussed. So these are the challenges in the robot vision. And what are the main references we follow, or these things? If you want, you can make a note of it. So this is about the robotic vision. The next part is what we are going to install the Python, and we start with the simulation. I think I'm on time. I just want to end with one quote. the eyes see what the brain knows. So we see what we know. We are already taught by that way. Even though we see a new thing, we just map it to what we already know. The same way, the robo also sees what we have fed it, what we have made the robo's brain to know. So that is what is the eye see what the brain knows. So better make it see by feeding it more and more data is what is my conclusion. Thank you for the patient listening. I'm open for questions.